Hey, everybody. Welcome to this week's podcast. This is episode 101 here with Ben.
What's up?
Nice. We're trying a new format here, so hopefully you enjoy. We kind of go through the new format that we're working on, what we want to give out to the folks out there. Shout out to our folks over at UltraHuman, talking a little bit about the ring and the CGM monitor, as well as talking about what our intent is with hacking your health. We get a bit into bulking and cutting. And some outrageous, bodybuilding discussions and things that people can do. But really fun podcast this week. Hopefully you tune in and listen to the rest of it, and we'll catch you here soon.
Let's get into the episode. You know that there has had to have been some sacrifice, whether it's time or nutrition or whatever it is.
Recording of myself talking about having a relationship with my chest.
I'm Ben Canning.
I'm Dave Kennedy.
And this is Hacking Health Podcast. Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome back. I'm Ben Canning.
I'm Dave Kennedy.
And this is Hacking Your Health Podcast.
It is.
Episode 101.
101. So
I would like to say before we get started, anybody who listened to episode 100, which would have been last week, which hasn't been released yet because we're 6 days behind what the release date will be. Dave and I have not listened to that episode as of recording right now. So I have absolutely no idea what it was. I hope everybody enjoyed it. I hope it was entertaining and everybody got what they needed from. That will mark, or that has marked, the end of the initial 100 episodes. And we're going to do things slightly differently moving forward.
Yeah, it's listen, it's interesting because it got recorded obviously in Colorado, and
the plan was that Dave and I were going to host a live podcast.
Yes,
and Dave said to me on the Wednesday, we had planned to do it on the Thursday, and Dave said to me, "What day we do the podcast?" On Wednesday morning. I was like, "Tomorrow night," and he was like, "Oh, I was going to get a flight home." And at the start, I was like, shit, right, what can we do? I was like, I'll just do it without him. And I was like, I can't do it without him. So we decided, I couldn't.
Next week, by the way, podcast is going to be just me because I can definitely do it without that.
So I made the executive decision there and then is like, I'll just let everybody else take control. The idea and the goal remained the same, as we would have everybody, we would incorporate everybody who was there, the team, the clients, everybody. That was always the goal. But initially, it was Dave and I were meant to be there. Now, my hope is, and genuinely I still have no idea what was recorded, that it made it better that we weren't there, but I guess we'll see.
Yeah, it's for the record, by the way, the reason I left Thursday was because I'd been in the ER for 2 days centric on they gave me what's the stuff that's on the market that everybody's like dying from? Fentanyl. They gave me fentanyl, and I'm like, is that fentanyl? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, isn't that the stuff like everybody's dying from there? I'm like yeah, but it's like medical stuff. I'm like, but it's the same thing, right? He's like, yeah, but it's like not like, I'm like, oh God. I'm like, oh God, am I gonna? So luckily, no issues there. But the Colorado thing was awesome to see, at least from the outside of kind of everybody coming together and sharing their experiences. And so with the 100th podcast episode, our goal with this podcast from day one, when Ben came up with the idea and asked me to co-host and really look at what we wanted to accomplish with this. Our goal was really to be able to provide free information for folks about our experiences, our journeys, but also what we see happening with other folks and the success that they have, because there's no question that Ben's experience is different than mine, and mine is different than Ben's, and vice versa. And so we're all learning in this journey that we call health and fitness. And, these things apply to not just fitness and everything else, but our mental health, longevity, our ability to be good business people, or, are good at our professions. And so the goal of this podcast was really to be a central location where, one, hopefully we continue to motivate you to ensure that you have that motivation to push forward and know that you're not alone, and that we all struggle with this type of stuff, or we have struggled in the past. We've all failed in the past. But how do you fix that? How do you get better? And then how do you continuously, focus on improving, right? And, it's a journey, but, what we found, throughout all of these podcasts, but also, what Ben created with, his group and what he does from a personal training perspective is that, community matters. Having a tribe, people around you that are positive, that allow you to share, your weakest moments, where you're failing, where you don't feel like doing something, where your consistency is off, you've just hit rock bottom, whatever it ends up being, you're going through personal struggles in life. You have people there that will support you through that and not judge you. At the end of the day, especially for men, men are supposed to be strong and not share their emotions and feelings, and be this human being that is literally just a robot and goes through the motions, right? Believe it or not, ladies, we have emotions as well, and we can get very emotional, and we can also hit different parts in our life that are catastrophic, and those are the things that really can be big changing moments in our life, where either A, we make a change for the better, or B, we make a change for the worst. And so this podcast really is for us to look at the community as a whole and to help others that may not know about us and are just getting into this, and to say, listen, we all have different struggles in life, but there is a way to be successful. There is a way for you to move forward. There is a way for you to start over and to be successful in everything that you do, because you are awesome. It's just a matter of things that haven't worked for you in the past, and how do you make that different this time around? And every podcast episode, we're always like, what should we cover? And it's really around, how do we better our listeners? How do we better the community? How do we give more back to the community? Because we're so thankful and positive to everybody else. And what we get out of this is seeing the success, right? Seeing people say, I just had somebody reach out to me the other day. He's like, hey, I've never reached out to you before, but I've listened to the podcast since day one. And my gosh, and this is what my journey's been like. And I follow everything you folks do. And I'm like, dude, like, I was having a really shitty day today, but you just made my day. Like, that's the best I can get out of this, right? So, it's one of those things where I really feel like we've made an impact. We continue to make an impact, but we're also listening to you, what you want, and what we can do to make this podcast even better, which is why we're excited to talk a little bit about the new format.
Yeah, and I mean, just to add that, and I know I've sort of probably in and around the time that we started the podcast, I sort of joked that like we have the potential here to change the narrative of the entire industry. I think the further that we get into it, and the further that I get into coaching, and the more people within the industry that I work with, the more and more I actually see the genuine opportunity here to actually make that a reality. And I mentioned, I think it was the podcast that we recorded in your office, coming back from Colorado, like that I had that sort of realization that this is much bigger than I am. And more conversations that I have with people within the community and other people that I know, and just actually talking to people about what it is that we're doing, like the feedback of like, shit, right, that is something that has the potential to actually really change a lot of people, like an entire industry and beyond, quality of life. And that's, I guess, what my goal, what my mission is to do with this, and to do with coaching as well. So it's cool to sort of see that come into reality. It's cool to get the feedback, though it's not that I want to work with everybody within the industry, because that's a hell of a lot of people to work with. But it's good to see the people who listen do actually take the advice on board and are making the change. And like you said, that sort of feedback is the reason that we do it. Is the good to see that people are taking the advice and making the change that are making a difference in their lives and the lives of those around them.
Yeah, that's the thing, like the lives around you, right? It's contagious what happens when you go through kind of a physical transformation. Everybody around you recognizes it. Everybody around you respects what you're accomplishing. And at the end of the day, they try to do the same, right? How can I improve? And, it's been great. Erin, is doing amazing on her health and fitness journey. I've taught her a lot as she's gone through. She's also learned herself, learned about herself and her body. Erin is an interesting example, because, she's been lean pretty much her whole life. And obviously with children, and as you get older, it gets harder to do that. And she's always been great. But it's been one of those things where, she's having a lot of success, based on, an ecosystem that I've been able to create around the household, around our kids, and those to be able to be successful with it. Right. And, our kids understand nutrition, our kids understand what they're doing. Now, don't get me wrong. I think I caught my son with 3, cans of Coke one day, Coca-Cola, downstairs in the basement one time. I'm like, what? He's like, I know, I had a moment of weakness. I'm like, oh, man, okay. But we really try to, keep it there. But, building the community, building friendships, building health, that is so important to us and to the folks that we meet. And this just continues to see the success. But before we get into the new format, talking about the new format, what we wanted to accomplish, wanted to give an update, personally. So how are you doing, man? I know you're busy. I know you're you're going to be traveling quite a bit here soon, and you're rocking it. But what's new with you, dude?
I am. So I don't know if you can see in the back. You can't really see it there because I have my desk stood up, but it's like I'm putting together all the essential bits and pieces that I'll need to like still actually be able to do my job at full capacity. So like I guess a travel version of my office. So I'm putting that together at the minute. But yeah, I'm planning out what the next, I guess, 3 or 4 weeks on the road are going to look like. I'm excited for like the different experiences that I'm going to have. I'm excited for obviously the Pittsburgh event. I'm excited to see what goes on in Vegas. Now, I'm going to say this in the podcast. I wanted to put it out on a tweet, but I'm going to say it here. Anybody who has seen that new structure, let's say in Vegas, the Sphere, where it's like it's all screens on the outside, they put up on Twitter that they claimed it was unhackable. I was like, surely that's not a thing that you want to be saying whenever you know you've got 50 to 60,000 hackers coming to the city in a matter of weeks. I want to say anybody who can get the We Hack Health logo on the side of it will get a year's free coaching. But aside from that, what's going on with me? I'm really starting to find my flow with building out how things are going to work from a coaching standpoint. As you know, I've sort of pulled back. I haven't really been taking any clients on since around about the 18th of May, just to sort of build out the onboarding process and how things work. So I've been sort of in the midst of that as to how the whole thing will flow a little bit better, how it'll make it more manageable for me, how it'll make more sense on the client side. So I'm excited to sort of finalize that. I'll probably spend a bit of time whenever I'm away just recording videos around and sort of making the process a little bit more digestible, let's say. So I'm excited to do that. I'm excited to get together and I'm excited to reopen the doors. Beyond that, there is not much else going on, dude. I trained upper body earlier on. I absolutely hugely failed on those 143-pound dumbbells on Sunday. The issue that I face in the gym is they go from 55 kilos to 65 kilos, which is 121 pounds to 143 pounds. I definitely need the 60 kilo ones in between. I think I could at least get those up for a few reps. But aside from that, dude, everything is good. I looked at your check-in photos earlier on that you sent across, and I was like, shit, right, if we're going to be in Vegas together, I'm definitely going to need to go on like some super strict cut here for the next month or so. But no, everything's good, dude. Like I said, I'm excited for the events that are coming up. I'm also excited for reopening the doors and bringing on a new group of folks.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, really cool to see what you're doing with bringing on new folks and all that good stuff. I know you kind of go in pockets, look back, see what you can do to improve that continuous improvement cycle, which I think is really important. I'll tell you, talking about bulking and cutting is always an interesting topic because I think it gets such a really bad rap because you see, all these like bodybuilders that are just pounding 10,000 calories a day and they're just super like, overweight in the sense of controlled, but, trying to put on and stack as much muscle mass as their body. And then from there, just cut out to be shredded. Right. And I think Ronnie Coleman said in one of his interviews that his genetics allowed him to get to like 0.5% body fat, which, is ridiculous. Right. I mean, you're pretty much at death at that point. You're putting your body through so much strain. And so, I think,
but also at like 300 pounds at that 40% at ridiculous
insane
body weight. Yeah,
absolutely crazy. But at the end of the day, like when it comes to bulking and cutting, the approach that you've really instilled into me, which I've really appreciated, was, coming from somebody that had a lot of trouble controlling their weight to somebody that now feels extremely confident in whatever direction I want to go in. It's taken, multiple years to get to that point. And there's always, I think I said this on Twitter, but there's always the big Dave or the overweight Dave in the back of my head saying, dude, you're letting yourself get too out of control. Can you even fix this? And it's funny because, when you look at the calorie differentials, what was I at? I think the top of my bulk this time was 3,200 calories. Wasn't crazy.
No, it wasn't crazy. I think maybe 34, 35.
Maybe it was 35. So I was at 3,500. I think the last time we had done a major bulk, I got all the way up to about 4,000 calories, which in itself was insane amount of calories. But what's interesting is we drastically this time around cut calories. Because one, we wanted to push I wanted to push myself and see if I can handle it. And two, Ben knew that I could handle it. And that's what I always appreciated with Ben is that, he understands where somebody's at a given point in life and what they can handle and what they can't handle. And then from there, it makes changes and course corrects based off of what's necessary. And we really haven't been in this cut very long, but I've been able to really shed, any type of weight that I really needed to. So I went from, 238 at one point at the highest peak of this time down to 225 as of today. And that's in a relatively short time period. I mean, it's probably what, a month and a half.
I changed your calories on the 22nd of June, so not even a month.
Not even a month. Which, it wasn't actually hard. And based on calipers and with InBody, I'm roughly sitting, roughly around 10 or sub 10% body fat, which is absolutely crazy to even think about, right? I mean, I sent Ben some pictures today of my abs, and like they're like completely defined and separated. And I still have, the imperfectionist in me. I still have the skin that overhangs at the very bottom of it, which drives me nuts. I'm like, you would be able to see my damn six pack clear as day if that skin wasn't there. But it's reminders of where it came from. But what was really cool with that is that this time around on the cut, I would say is probably the easiest cut that I've ever been through, because one, I knew what to expect. Two, it was drastic, but not drastic enough to really even have an impact. And three, I've really figured out how to control my urge for hunger. I think is the best way of explaining it. When I was in the 3,500 calorie rank, I would just eat kind of whatever I wanted to, for lack of a better term, because I knew hitting my protein goals was going to be easy, and I would just kind of eat what I needed to within that range, and it was just super simple. When you get down to cutting calories, I just focus on not eating everything, that I want, but I focus on eating more so like, hey, making sure I hit my protein goals, and then supplementing with, what I need to get through for the rest of the day. And so, it was super simple to make that adjustment very quick, and was able to just literally stack the weight off of, and, came out much stronger because of it. And I'll tell you that the confidence that I have now, it continues to grow, right? Each phase of this that I continue to be successful with, and it gets easier each time, just like you do anything else in life for the first time, the second time, the third time, the fourth time. It's when you do resistance training for the first time, you hate it. You have no idea what you're doing. You have to learn how to, build form and technique and everything else that goes along there. At the end of the day, though, when you do it over and over and over again, you get better with form. You understand how your body works. You understand, what you're doing. You're understanding the progress you're getting into. So it's the same thing with the bulking and cutting. Slight surplus, slight deficit, just, mix and match to get to the desired results that you want to. And it's taken years to get there, to build the amount of muscle mass I need to, which has been great too, because the more muscle mass I have, the more calories that my body needs to burn to maintain that muscle mass. And at the same time, making sure I hit my protein goals and everything else that goes along with it. And by the way, also not doing HIIT training twice a week because of my broken ankle. Still able to cut that weight down as necessary has been really such a booster for me. So I'm in such a happy spot when it comes to, my fitness and health and everything else that goes along with that, I'm not tired. I'm not sluggish. I'm not dragging ass. I feel great. And I'm sitting at sub 10% body fat, which is freaking ridiculous to think about, that it's that easy for me to cut down to that level without, having to do an insane cut where I'm starving all the time or thinking about food, or, it's been an awesome journey. So I'm super thankful for you and what you've been able to instill. But again, that system that I'm in allows me to be flexible. And it's funny because like people are like, oh, I guarantee you're not eating any carbs and you're not, drinking any alcohol. You're not able to, enjoy food. I'm like, what? No, like I had like 6 Coronas the other day. I had a blizzard with Aaron. Aaron and I decided to do a blizzard run. I had a small blizzard, for
Skyline Chili.
A Skyline Chili, like, yeah. So sub 10% Skyline Chili, eating Dairy Queen, drinking Coronas. Shit works, again, it's within moderation, right? And everything that you do. 6 Coronas probably wasn't the moderation, but I had the calories for it. So
yes. And I agree. Now, the thing about it is the benefit that we have is time. So we've been doing this for a long time. So I know what works and what doesn't work. I know what you can and can't handle. And I know when to push and when to pull back. So that is the benefit of working with someone for a longer period of time, because you get a real understanding of them and their body and what they respond to. Because like you said, what works for me doesn't necessarily work for you. So we definitely do have the benefit of that. Now, it doesn't mean that, yes, we have that in a coaching format, but for anybody who goes through this process, you will have the evidence and you will have the understanding of what works for you and your body. And that is essentially what it comes down to. It's rebuilding that stack of evidence of the things that you can and can't do. And I think that, people are often hesitant whenever they initially start, because they have a stack of evidence of failure, of the things that they've done before that don't work. And every time they try something, they last this amount and they bounce back and they rebound. So their evidence or their belief around them trying to change or transform is that they will fail in some way, shape, or form. What we've done over the past few years is change the narrative of that, of like, okay, right, this is what we do to lose body fat. Whenever we're happy with that, this is what we do when we gain muscle. Whenever we're happy with that, this is what we do to lose body fat. And I know that there still is a little bit of you is like, shit, is this going to work again this time? But then we do it and it does work. And it's like, okay, right. Yeah, I know this works. And I think even back to your point, like, I know I can go a little bit more extreme with you because I know that you can handle it. We do have the benefit of we can quote unquote get away with more calories. And I say this every time I speak on an initial call with someone, and I'm 99% sure I would have said it to you. My goal with anybody I work with is to get their body in a position that they can process and handle as much or as many calories as they want and still move towards their goal. And, you're dropping weight and you're dropping pounds at 2,700 calories. It's, you're not exactly starved. Like, you have the freedom, the flexibility to have Cronus, Skyline Chili, Dairy Queen, whatever it is. That is just something that takes time to sort of build that and get your body to that place. But it is possible. And it's, again, rewriting the narrative of, you can't have carbs, you're not allowed out after 9 p.m. You have to, make sure you do this, and this. Like, you can live a good and normal life and not feel restricted as long as you know that you can stay within the amount of calories and moderate as much as possible.
Yeah. And that's, I think the thing that people don't really understand is that most people really look at like, hey, in order to be certainly lean and things like that, you have to eat like rice and chicken and chicken breasts and
which is delicious. Like, I mean, I had chicken and rice 3 times yesterday and I was okay with it.
Oh wait, I could just eat chicken and rice and broccoli.
Yeah.
Man, I'm not knocking that whatsoever. Yeah, I saw something like there was a interview with one of like a famous bodybuilder. I can't remember his name offhand, but he's like, people don't understand what it takes to get to that level. As much steroids as you're pumping into your body at that given time to be able to compete on the national stage, right? Basically just eating rice all day long to where you're basically pooping blood, and like all of these like things that he'd gone through like what it does to your body during those periods of time, right? And a lot of these fitness influencers around there, are kind of doing the same exact thing, and so you get this misconception that you have to like work out 4 hours a day and it has to completely consume your life. And I got a recent thing, I talked about my success that I had with the cutting, and someone had asked me the question again, probably had a misconception or a preconceived notion that because I own 2 companies, that my flexible schedule allows me to be able to do that. And he was asking a question. He wasn't, coming out saying, and I said, actually, it's the exact opposite. My schedule's insane. That's why I work out super early in the morning. And by the way, I mean, I typically don't spend more than an hour and a half in the gym, unless it's like a weekend and I have some spare time. And maybe I'll spend like 2 or 2.5 hours, sometimes 4 if I really, I'm feeling it or something like that. But I mean, at the end of the day, I'm usually only in there for an hour and a half. And I'm getting shit done at the beginning of the day before everything starts. I don't have to worry about people bothering me. And then I move on with the rest of my day accomplished. Right. Same thing for eating. I'm not sitting there just eating chicken and rice. Last night I had chicken and rice, but for lunch, I like I said, I went to Dairy Queen with Aaron, got some, a nice blizzard. But I also had, a Core Life, which, is like some steak and some other things that I wrapped in there. But again, protein centric type of meals and things like that. My late night snack was I had, 3, cheese sticks, like the string cheese sticks, some cottage cheese and, Greek yogurt. So, high protein, really essentially meal at the end of the day. And then eventually, capped it off with a, casein protein shake. So, I'm flexible in what I can eat. I can eat what I want to, but at the same time, it's in a controlled format that allows me to hit the goals that I need to. And there's a lot of people that talk about, it's called IIFYM, which is if it fits in your macros, right? And that's kind of the trend that I really attest to and think it's such a positive thing. So I actually got asked a question in the car yesterday when I was driving to go with a friend for lunch. And he said, do you do the same thing that The Rock does where, he has this massive, insane, pancakes and, cheeseburgers and pizza on the weekend. And, but that's what people see, right? They see like, oh, The Rock, he just does this cool stuff during the week. And then the weekend, I just eat whatever I want to. Right. And, that's fine. And I kind of explained to him, like, listen, if you're eating 2,000 calories a day, times 7, and you cut your calories every day, to shave that, yes, you could have, this massive weekend of eating food and things like that. But are you gonna be happy throughout the whole week? Like a good example is if I know I'm going out to dinner with a bunch of friends, I will typically load heavy on protein shakes during the day, right? To keep me kind of sustained and full, but keep my calorie count low. So, like for breakfast, I'll have a protein shake. For lunch, I'll have a protein shake. Maybe I'll have another protein shake midway, and maybe I'll couple it with some, oatmeal or something like that, or maybe that in the morning. But my, calories are probably sitting at, 700-800 before I actually go out to actually eat, knowing I can blow, 1,500 calories or more, on a nice meal. So, it's just planning and preparation, but fitting into the system that if it fits in your macros, that's where it goes. And that system really allows me to really kind of do it. And honestly, I really feel like I wouldn't need my fitness pal. I don't think, I would really even need it anymore, because I understand, one, what my proteins are on the ballpark that I'm at from a calories perspective, and whether or not that's making me gain or lose weight. So the system that I have, you've developed that I'm in, and that I really attest to, allows me to do whatever I need to, whether it's gain more muscle, lose fat, get a little bit more bulky, gain as much muscle, lose fat, whatever objective I want to, I'm there. And, obviously physique wise, my wife said the other day, I got my own personal Thor sitting at home. Fantastic. I'll take that compliment any day. The only type of people I'm trying to impress is my wife and other dudes. So, it's like, however, if I can get compliments from other dudes saying, dude, you're freaking jacked as hell, I'll take that anytime. Right. So and funny story real quick. So I took the time machine, the DeLorean, to this fundraiser, it was at a country club, and I got a trailer and everything now for this thing. I got a winch that pulls it in, and you were there obviously for that. And so we loaded it up. We get to this place to drive it off, and this older couple comes to me. And there's it's you can tell the dad is kind of still relatively fit, probably in his 80s, still fit. And he looks at me. He's like, "Damn, dude, are you a football player?" And I'm like, "No, man, I just like to lift heavy things." He's like, "Congratulations, great job." He's like, "You look absolutely fantastic." I'm like, "Dude, thank you." I'm like, "By the way, you do too. You're like 80 years old or something." That's how old he was.
No, you look fantastic. No, you look fantastic.
I'm like, walking with my wife down, getting some exercise in. That's my dream, right? So, it was really cool to see, people recognize, your ability to really morph and change, and to what it takes to actually do that. And there's so many, like there's this Instagram guy I follow, and he talks about when a person that is physically fit and muscular, whether it be a male or female, walks into a room, there is already a sense of command when it comes to this person has their shit together, because one, they're consistent, they're disciplined, they know that it's not short-term goals but long-term goals that allow them to accomplish this, and that at the end of the day they're concerned about themselves to put the work and effort in to better themselves. Therefore, the command is presence at that point in time, versus somebody that may have let themselves go and is not healthy, and you feel sorry for that person because they're not able to move, or they feel sick all the time, or whatever it ends up being. But it's a difference in perspective when you go through that, so it's kind of neat.
Yeah, a couple of things I want to touch on. Number one, The Rock and his quote unquote cheat meals. I don't like the term, but if you're The Rock and you're 260 pounds and you can eat fucking rock toast and whatever the fuck you want at the weekend, I'm not going to argue with you. Second thing is that if it fits your macros thing, while I agree with it to an extent, I think there is definitely a scale on it. This sort of became popular whenever I was like a young coach and I worked in the gym. And I remember like seeing all these guys posting about eating Pop-Tarts and like Skittles and Jaffa Cakes. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like I get it. You can have those things and you can fit it within your calories. But how does it make you feel? Like, are you actually getting any benefit from good quality food? So I think that, again, to go back to any sort of structure or that or whatever, you can take elements from it and use it. So yes, while we can have, if it fits your macros, 80 to 90% of the food that you have on a day-to-day basis is good quality, whole, nutrient-dense food. And yes, okay, you can have the freedom and flexibility with the rest of having Coronas and whatever else within it. So having that, I think, and understanding that it's not, and if it fits your macros all the time and you just eat fucking 30 Pop-Tarts all day, you're probably not going to feel the best. The other bit on top of that is I see this in terms of like people struggling to make decisions. So it's like, okay, I can actually eat whatever I want. And that becomes the big problem because they're like, okay, I can eat whatever I want. What do I eat? So sometimes I think having a sort of set 3 meals for breakfast, 3 meals for lunch, 3 meals for dinner, and you cycle through them and all you do is have to pick between one of them. So you're not like, come back from work and you're like, what do you want for dinner? I don't know. What do you want? You're back and forward for 45 minutes. And before you know it, you're eating Doritos and you're having that for dinner. So it's like using elements to make sure that you can still stay within your goals. The last point on people who almost demand a presence whenever they come in and they're big and muscular, like that is one of my very first ever memories of going to M10. So the gym that I used to go to sort of learn about training, where I learned about tempo, and everybody in the community will thank me for it. I remember walking in the first time, and Callum was there, who was my original coach, James, who's my current coach, and a couple of other dudes, and they were just enormous. And I was like, holy shit. It was like the land of the giants. I was like, where have I ended up? But it's exactly like that. They demand this, I don't know, they just have this presence about them. I was like, I want that. That is what I want. I want to be able to like just walk into a room and have already established myself within it just because of how I look. And I think that that's important in terms of what you're saying. But I also think, if I think from a professional perspective or a business perspective, I think it's definitely stands you well if you look like you have control of your shit. You know, like you said, if you walk into a business meeting and it's an investor for a company or whatever, you're probably going to have an edge if you look like you're in control of your shit. You can be consistent, disciplined with yourself, because that's probably something that's going to transfer into business and what you're doing from a professional perspective.
Yeah, and the transformation between the business and personal, I think, has been such a great thing for me too, because, you know, it's interesting. What I used to look at and what my priorities were have completely changed since I've been on this fitness journey, right? What it's allowed me to recognize is that not everything is a priority. I don't have to get everything done. I can get what I need to that is most important, and then chip away at the other things that are necessary, right? And, you know, I prioritize the fitness stuff, obviously, and I prioritize things that I need to get done. But at the end of the day, I don't focus on trying to get everything in my life done, because it's not possible. I focus on, and honestly, it's helped me build a better relationship with my family, my kids, because I can now coach my kids. I'm actively involved in them. I'm at all the sporting events. You know, they're always asking me to carry shit all the time, you know, because I'm strong. And, you know, so it's great to be able to be a part of my family, a contributing part of my family, because I'm always there to get stuff done. And my wife said to me, it was, I think, for Father's Day, one of the compliments she had made, she's like, I don't know how Dave does it. Like he drives hard all day at work and gets his stuff knocked out. And as soon as he gets home, you know, he's there as a father with the kids, playing with the kids, changing the light bulbs, fixing things in the house, getting things done, driving kids from place to place to place, moving to different, you know, like he's like, I don't know how this guy has as much energy as he does, but I'm very thankful for it, you know. And, you know, that's such an awesome compliment, because, you know, as a father in the household, my job is to, you know, teach the kids, you know, discipline, as well as, you know, having a strong fatherly figure, you know, that can teach them the rules of being successful when they are no longer, you know, in the household, as well as contribute to the house itself or the household to, you know, make sure things are you know, kept up in getting the hard stuff done. You know, that's what, you know, my role really is. And it's been really cool to see that progress, because I wasn't always like that, obviously, when I was Big Dave. And that balance between personal, professional, mental clarity, everything else, you know, strong body, strong mind, is so true.
Agree. And again, like I had a call yesterday, and I was trying to describe that thing, and I could see the person looking at me like, yeah, right, as if by me doing more stuff, I'm going to have more time and more energy to do other stuff. It's like, it doesn't make any sense. But until you're in it, until you feel it, it doesn't make any sense. And I think that, you know, the gym and the health journey, and, you know, whatever you do from looking after yourself, it is transferable in everything that you do, but it also is a metaphor for everything that you do. Do you know what I mean? It's like the stuff that you learn in the gym, and that's something I've been playing about with, obviously, recently myself, like the lessons that the gym teaches you that you can use day-to-day life, work, business, family life, whatever it is. Like, I think it's one of the best things, if not the best thing, that you can do for yourself, for the people around you, and for the future version of you.
Yep. So on that topic, let's talk a little bit about the new podcast format, which I think is important to talk about, what we wanted to kind of accomplish with that. And then I also wanted to hit on a couple of things after that as well. So first and foremost, you know, when we first started the podcast, we kind of just YOLO'd it, right? And I think we've gotten better, you know, with time as it is anything. We're still YOLOing it, but it's within a reasonable, I think, threshold. But one of the things that, you know, we wanted to accomplish is, if you look at structures of other podcasts that are successful, but also most importantly, you know, what do you want to listen to as a listener, right? We took some feedback in from there. And by the way, we're always open for suggestions. Pop them into the podcast discussions channel on our Discord server. You know, we're always happy to make changes or, you know, add certain topics or things that you're looking to do. one of those is obviously getting more guests, which we definitely want to do. I think we have a few that we have lined up that I think are going to be really exciting. And then the second piece was kind of restructuring the format just a little bit. So the way that the podcast will kind of look and feel, and again, this may be subject to change as we go along, but when you first tune into the podcast, you're going to get a recap of what we talked about. So after we're done with the podcast, we're going to record the beginning stages of it, saying, hey, this is what the podcast is about today. Just a quick 30-second to a minute, summary, just to see if you're interested in that topic. And then from there, we'll kick into the intro, the most amazing intro theme that's ever been created, by the way. And then from there, kick into how things are going in our personal lives, things like that. I think the interpersonal relationships and what's going on in our lives and things that we're struggling with is always a great thing to kind of break the ice with. And then from there, get into very specific, quick hit topics that are important, whether it's new scientific research that's coming out that's important for us to understand our bodies more, or new supplements, or right now I'm using the UltraHuman ring and the CGM, which is right there. Talking about, experiences with that and why that's important from a continual glucose monitor perspective, and pairing that with your overall body statistics, things that we can provide you with knowledge that are more quick hit items that you can walk away from, with things you may be able to incorporate into your own daily routines, or things you may be able to change, or just clarify topics that you may not have a good understanding with. I thought last week's podcast, or I guess it'd be 2 weeks ago for the folks listening, around muscle hypertrophy, and how do you get into certain rep ranges and why that's important and how that's different based on strength versus endurance versus size and growth. I thought those types of topics are always very valuable for folks, because it's one that I always, especially early on, really struggled with. Am I doing the right things, and why am I doing this way? Why am I doing things that way? So those types of topics, I think are still relatively or extremely important. And then from there, break open with, the discussion of the topic of the day, that we can really, push through whatever we want to get as far as objectives of the talk, and then obviously incorporate guests and things like that into that.
Yeah, I think that I guess before we even started the podcast, I realized the types of podcasts that I like to listen to are ones that I feel like I'm a part of the conversation. So like you said, the initial bit where we bullshit, catch up, back and forward, like I think that's important because it gives a sense of what's going on with us. Do you know what I mean? And I think on the flip side of that as well, it gives the real side, potentially the human side. Things that we struggle with, things that we're going through, experiences that we're having, because, we've been doing this, I guess, 100 weeks now, almost 2 years. So things in both of our lives have changed. The way we do things have changed, and sort of even seeing that evolution as we go through it. Goals have changed, like work has changed, like things have changed. So being able to sort of continually keep up to date with that, I think is beneficial. Number one, for everybody listening, but number two, for us to catch up and actually see what's going on with the other person. And then the sort of quick hit actionable tips that someone can walk away and actually put into practice right away, I think is important. And then, like you said, the in-depth topic of discussion to sort of finish out.
Yeah, I think with that format, one, it kind of breaks things up into, what's this about today, and prep everybody for what we're listening to. Two, allows us to hit a few different topics, right? Personal growth stuff, mental struggles, things that we're dealing with, life in general. And then from there, things that you can take away actionably, to maybe improve, your supplement routine or protein intake timing, whatever it ends up being as far as the subject is. And then from there, getting into and diving into, different areas that we typically talk about, specialty type of topics and things like that. I think that'll be a really good format for folks to listen to. And I hope, we get feedback from that and how you like the new format and what people think of it. And again, our goal with this whole podcast has always been to really, look at how can we continuously improve and get you better information to be successful in your journeys, and look at what's actually happening out there to really push the envelope for folks to, make that change that is going to ultimately impact how long you live for the greater, your relationship with your family or your spouse or significant other, or, your children. What can you do to really, increase that potential of success? And, it was interesting. I got a message from somebody just the other day, and I hadn't heard from them in a year. And it was somebody that was had mentioned that they listened to the Hack Health podcast, and that we were able to really change their perspective and had dropped X amount of pounds, whatever. And, he sent me a message. He's like, my progress isn't as good as I would like. And I kind of had a few missteps. He's like, but I hopped right back on. I'm right back at it. I'm doing great. And I love that. I love that because we all fall off in certain ways sometimes, right? whether, life gets us into a certain situation, or, just get too busy, or, we skip one day, then it's 2 days, and it's a month later, like, oh shit, I need to get back into this. You got to hop back on. You got to get back onto this and continue to make the progress that allows you to drive what you need to be successful. And we all have those struggles. Each one of us, Ben, myself, everybody, goes through these hurdles and challenges. I go through the times where I feel like, especially the first few weeks of the broken foot, I really struggled mentally with that, because I knew that my progress was going to be hindered. And that's like the biggest number one, thing in my life that I fear, right? Is injury, especially ones where I can't deadlift and do squats and, build up my massive quads. So, but instead I've been,
you can definitely still do your massive quads, or like if you just do the leg extension for
I did run the rack twice today. I was like, I'm getting so bored with this. I need something else.
But you did. I think you should talk, like, we did come to an agreement today that you were allowed to try to deadlift, and we decided that is not a good. We're not there yet.
Yes. And it was very structured. So I did cardio yesterday at Orange Theory, but I was on the elliptical, which is low impact, and that felt fine. I had zero pain. I did the rower, again, zero pain, and then I was able to do the gym, and I was actually able to do RDLs fairly lightweight, no issues. The issue that I ran into, especially with deadlift, was when I did the deadlift, and I'm coming back in sumo. You're rocking the ankle pretty good at that point in time, and that's where I started to experience some pain. And it wasn't overbearing, but I was also at very low weights. And I'm like, listen, if I'm experiencing pain doing this, it's definitely not time for me to really dive down into this and even try. The goal was to get to 60%, my 1 rep max, which would probably be like, I don't know what that is, but I did the calculation. I was going to go up to like 400 or something like that.
I think 300 is probably 60%.
I was gonna do like 600, but no, like it was like 300, which is accurate. And so, but I just went 2 plates on each side, and it was not feeling it. So, not there yet, but that mental piece there to overcome. We all go through those struggles, regardless of what that is. And again, having community, having this podcast, having the Discord channels, the We Hack Health tags on social media. Those are all very important to me and very important to others to kind of share their experiences and overcome those hurdles and share the successes, which I think is the most important, right?
Yeah, and I think this is my one ask from everybody who listens. There are people who share quite often on a daily basis, but I know there are people who don't necessarily share, and I get it. Not everybody wants to share their information or their journey, or they don't feel like they should, or whatever. The way that I look at it is, if you share something, and I think about this in terms of content as well, whether it's a tweet or a video or whatever I put out, if I get out of my own way and I share the thing, if that benefits one person on the other side or prompts them to make a change or whatever the thing is, to me, the discomfort that I go through in sharing, again, whatever it is worth it for that one person making a change. So if you're like, you're killing your progress and you whatever the goal is, like, share the progress, because that is what the community is about. That's what the hashtag's about. That's what we thrive off. Even if it's just a case of, the hashtag on Twitter, or share it within the Discord, like, share, because people really thrive off that. And I think the more people who see more people sharing it, the more people will take control and take charge of their life, but also the more people that then will share it. We'll just get into that positive cycle of more people sharing. And like, genuinely, it's about sharing the wins, and it's about sharing the struggles as much. But it's about getting more people to take action and make change in their lives to live a better quality life.
Yeah, absolutely. So expect that in the new podcast on this episode, as well as moving forward in other episodes as well. So, more to come with this, and obviously continual process improvement. But I'm really excited where we're heading and where we're going.
And we're going to be visually different.
Heck yeah. Because we're going to be doing a lot of these in person, right?
Yeah, we're going to be doing them in person, but even when we're not doing them in person, Ryan's going to do a bit of editing for us.
Yeah.
So for the 37 people that watch us on YouTube, you'll get us from slightly different angles. But yeah, even for that, I've spoken to Ryan about that from a content perspective. I've spoken to Josh, who's the marketing guy. So there's plenty of plans to get it out into more people. So not only us sharing it and other people sharing it around us, just more like shorter clips from the podcast to put out on just short video content, emails, things like that. So we will be in your face a lot more, hopefully.
Yep. So with that, I wanted to hit on UltraHuman really quick because I thought that was such a cool thing. So Ben's the one that actually introduced me to the UltraHuman folks. I had not heard of them before, and I knew that UltraHuman did CGMs because when I was doing my research on like different CGM providers, UltraHuman had come out there, but it basically said it was more international than it was in the United States. So I had really to look at them. But with anything that's new in tech, I'm very interested in to see kind of how they work. And UltraHuman, I will say, is a ring. It's a wearable ring, and I have one on my index finger currently. But I usually wear on my pointer finger. I switch kind of back and forth. So here's my other one right here that I can put on my index finger. But I kind of switch back and forth between the two. But what's interesting about them and what I really like about them is the coupling of continual glucose monitors and the wearable ring. And one thing I can say is that what I find very different about UltraHuman than I do Whoop or anybody else. So the reason I liked Whoop, by the way, and the reason I disliked Aura, one was the ring. I felt the ring was very conflicting, especially when lifting. But two, the amount of data that Aura provided really was just at a basic level. I would say that you're looking at generalizations when it comes to Aura, and to dive down to the data really wasn't there. So that's why I really preferred Whoop, most specifically for the data side. I can tell you that UltraHuman is almost too much data. I find myself going down a freaking rabbit hole because they have so many reports you can generate. And what I really love about them, one, I've got to talk to the CEO, I've got to talk to their COO. They are really open and responsive. Like literally, I can go to the contact form, in their app, and I'll get a response immediately, and they're working with me as a real human being right away. And so they're just really nice folks. And I'd been talking to their marketing person, and I was like, hey, I really would love to get the CGMs because, but they have a special version of the Libre that you can only get in like Europe that you have to use because it's like more of an open standard than it is in the United States. And that allows them to directly pair within the app itself. And I think they're going through the clinical trials here to get that approved here in the States. So hopefully it'll be done shortly. But they sent me two CGMs, through a doctor. I was able to go get the CGMs and everything else prescribed. And it was really cool because now I'm able to test out the CGM functionality with the ring coupling. And they have so much great data that is available. So they have this thing called BIOS, which, for our computer folks, I was like, hey, I might want to change it to a different name. But it's you can take a look at your glucose profiles, and they break down all of your stats of what they've saw throughout the days, apply that to the food that you've eaten if you've entered it, and you can actually see how to improve your glucose, and gives you instructional videos of how to learn more about it. So it's real data applied to you specifically, and then coupling that with, hey, how did my heart rate look that night? How did my heart rate variability look? And if I eat carbs super late at night, my glucose actually looks like, total crap the next day, but so does my HRV gets impacted, right? So how does that impact my overall scoring when it comes to my whole body, when it comes to, temperature, heart rate variability, blood pressure, glucose monitor, all that stuff all comes together in one area. And it's been really cool. But they also, give you reminders of like, hey, you're just starting your circadian rhythm. It's best to right now in this window to go get some light to optimize your energy throughout the rest of the day. Or, hey, we're just coming out of this window. You need to focus on getting less light so your body can start to wind. And by the way, you might want to consider taking a hot shower, at night to calm yourself down and to raise your temperature really quick to focus your body to start cooling it down very fast. So there's all of these great suggestions that they have that are very scientifically based approaches to, on top of like more habit forming type things that are on top of just what they produce from the ring stats and the CGM itself. And they're super open to feedback. They're super open to understanding like, your experience with it and get those onto the roadmap. They actually publish their roadmap. I can look at this right now and I can see, my CGM scores of when I actually had, I had a grande flat white, which, has some milk and sugar. So you can see my glucose spike a little bit, but you can see throughout the rest of the day, it was pretty much stable. And then get into here and it says right now, it says, they have this, what's called their circadian zone. And it says neutral impact of light activity. You're currently in the circadian dead zone. While light exposure and exercise have other varied benefits, exposure during this window has minimal impact on your circadian clock. And then you can take a look at your movement index, sleep index, recovery, heart rate, skin temperature, heart rate variability, resting heart rate. And then they build out a timeline. You can track your macros directly through the app itself. So it can actually replace MyFitnessPal. It has the ring battery life and everything else in it, as well as the coupling with the CGM. And then you basically have like a log file that you can look through the rest of your day of things that it suggested, or, hey, you had a higher average glucose day yesterday. Well, yeah, I decided to kind of snack a little bit more on carbs and everything else. But what this has actually done is I found what foods really spike my glucose heavily, and I try to stay away from those. And I focus more so on things that don't and keep me more of a maintained level. Because what you don't want to see is this massive shoot up of glucose, right? And then, it dropped down and then you feel like total crap. And I've actually been able to correlate those crashes and peaks to A, when I'm sweating more, or B, when I'm actually crashing and I feel like shit. So, I can actually see the variations of how I feel, the energy levels that I have based off of what I eat correlated to the data, and making pattern changes to optimize and make myself better. So, but what's cool though is if you're not into all of that stuff and all that data, it's still a very high level interface. And then you can just dive down to the data you want to, and they have so much data. They give you a weekly report, a monthly report, you have the BIOS reports, you have all these reports, so you can get as much data as you need to kind of work through it. And it's just been so cool because they're super responsive. They're a hungry, eager company just coming out, and they're obviously competing with Auras and Whoops and Apple Watches and everything else. I think what they're doing is truly unique, and I really am a big fan of their company, kind of their approach, their agile workflow approach to everything, as well as really the product they put in. And the last thing I'll say with it before I pass to you, Ben, is it's a very soft ring. The exterior of it is titanium, but the inside of it is like a really soft plastic that they've lined it with, right? And so when you put it on your finger, it's very gentle. So when I'm lifting, I usually don't have any problems at all. The only time I really take it off is when I'm deadlifting, just to ensure that I can have a really good grip, because I'm really focused on heavy weight on the grip, and I don't want to compromise that or have to dig it into there, but I could. So I don't really see it as being a hindrance to lifting. And it's been fine on my index finger or my my ring finger or my pointer finger, index finger. And so I really think, I pretty much found a home with UltraHuman, which has been really cool.
Yeah, I think I was actually introduced Threemati, who is now a client. It was whenever you had the previous CGM that will not mention the name of the company. I did the tweet about it, and he tagged UltraHuman. He actually tagged the CEO of the company too. And then one of the employees reached out to me, and I've been dealing with her pretty much ever since. So I obviously had the CGM, and whenever I had the initial call with her, just hearing how it was all connected, because yes, okay, well, it's great that we have this data and we have our HRV and we have our rest heart rate, and on this side we have our blood glucose and we have blood pressure and we have all these things. It's like having one place that you can go and see how they all impact everything together and just make sense of the whole thing. I was like, I'm in straight away. I haven't obviously got mine yet. She actually sent me an email. I thought this was pretty cool too. She sent me an email last week saying, "Oh, great to see that your name on the order list for the Air. Just checking if you got your sizing kit." And then I went back to her, and she says, "I'll just get an updated rough estimate of when delivery is going to be." And she told me to be here at the end of the month. And I was like, you didn't have to do any of those things. So like even the small details of like that, of how they communicate and whatever else, has been very cool. So I'm excited to get it. Whenever I get mine, I will also order a CGM and sort of go through the process of having them both together. But even like you said, having the understanding of what spikes the glucose and sort of things to potentially avoid, because you'll have been in the situation before where you eat something and then like you sit in the sofa and all of a sudden you're asleep, and it's like it's that crash that sort of forces you into that sleep, or if you're not sleeping, like the feeling of feeling shit. So having an understanding of where those things actually come from and what foods to potentially avoid, simply because your body doesn't respond well to them. Plus the tips and the sort of AI generated tips around how you should sort of change. And one thing that I find quite interesting was one of the tips I got, or whenever I was doing a little bit further research into it, was about the sort of order that you ate the food. So it's not necessarily just specific to the food, but the order that you ate it, the impact it would have on sort of how your blood glucose spikes or doesn't. So looking, I guess, at a deeper level at food and how it impacts your body, and the, like you said, the data and the information that it can feed back to you. So I'm excited to get mine and then get these. I can't believe you've got both. I started off having the one thing that I could get that you couldn't get, and now you've got both the fucking things. But yeah, I'm excited to get it together. And like, as I said, as a company and sort of what they seem to stand for and what they're trying to do, I'm on board with them 100%.
Yeah. And, again, there's, when you talk about customer success, right? The fact that they will listen to folks, provide feedback, and you get directly from like the CEO and things like that. I think, I can't emphasize enough. It's a thing that I've always focused on in my business, right? And you may say, well, they're just a startup, that's how they are. I mean, I've been in business for 12 years, and that's the way I am. If someone reaches out to me, I'm going to respond back to them. I'm going to answer their questions. I'm going to see how I can make the product better. If someone calls me or sends me an email, I'm going to respond to them. I mean, that's how you do good business, right? And I don't care how big you are. If you get a message from one of your customers and they're pissed or they have an issue or they're giving you feedback of how to be better, I mean, you should listen to that, because at the end of the day, they're the ones that are using your product, and those are the ones that you want to continue to make happy. So, how do you, and so that the fact that they're able to do that and respond, and you could tell just, from their excitement and, they're proud of their product, right? They are very interested in making their product better, and they want feedback to go and do it. I support those types of companies, that are trying to continuously make it better. I wish Tonal was that way, right? You can't get a hold of anybody at Tonal.
I mean, majority of companies, you can't get a hold of anybody.
Right. And yes, that's a great point. But like Tonal, I have so many ideas of how to make that product like so much better for folks that, but they don't really have a way of submitting feedback, and you get kind of thrown through this like customer service loop. And, again, maybe it's just a difference of mentality, but having people that are out there, the Sleep Number guy, or Sleep 8, I think it was what there was, the 8 Sleep, the vet would respond back. He sent me a few direct messages and stuff like that. I'm like, please make the right size for my bed. Like, I want your thing. It looks amazing. I can't. My wife will not let me get your bed because I just bought another one. So as soon as that goes, I'll buy your bed. But like until then, I need a mattress, or a sheet cover. It's those types of things I think that make a big difference. And I'm curious to see where they go, where they run, and ultimately at the end of the day, like how the product turns out. I will say that the biggest thing that I don't like about their product right now, and so I'm obviously not perfect. The biggest thing I don't like about their product is the activity detection that they're working on now. It's in their roadmap. But it's one of my biggest pet peeves is that, I have to basically go back and add it, and it doesn't seem to be as accurate during the workout routines. Now, here's the thing. I don't really use that from a data tracking perspective to see how hard I was working. Obviously, I can do that. But it's nice to be able to show like a really nice presenting screenshot saying, hey, I busted my ass today, very similar to Whoop. You see Whoop, and it's like,
you just want to put your screenshots on Twitter.
It's not like I care about it. It's it. I just want a little screenshot there to say, hey, this is how hard I worked on this thing. And I really don't get that, which, but it still obviously tracks it. It tracks my recovery and everything else, which is the most important piece of it. But that's the one piece that I wish they really would address, ASAP, which again, I think they're actually working on as of now. So hopefully that's remediated soon.
Good.
It's only feedback.
I mean, like I said, I'm on board. I can't wait to get mine.
Yeah. Well, hey, that's it for this podcast, man. It was a good one.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully folks are enjoying this format of what we're doing. And, we're always interested in feedback, just like the CEO over at UltraHuman or myself at Trusted Tech or Binary, or Ben at the BC stuff. So, it's what we're here for. And hopefully, folks are enjoying this, and we'll continue to do it.
Yep. And as I said, if you can share this, share your wins, share your struggles, share it on Twitter, share it within the Discord, #WeHackHealth. Find us on social media platforms. See you next week.